The quail buffer program. All his quail buffers are 120 feet wide. There's one across the road there. It goes completely around the whole property. And we'll be driving by some as we continue on to Andreas Wetland. I'm just going to turn it over to Nathan now, and he's going to talk to you more about the plants, right?
Thanks. Well, we talked a little bit earlier about the CP33 practice. When we were back at the building, back in Gilder Plains. Talking just briefly about what you're looking at here. The practice itself is basically native warm season grasses with a mix of forbs, native wildflowers and legumes. And the reason for the mix is a couple different reasons. One is that these native warm season grasses grow a little bit differently than some of the exotic cool season grasses that were in some of the older CRP stands. So these are bunch grasses. They tend to grow in clumps as opposed to the thick carpet of grass you might see with the cool season grasses like fescue, brome, and so on. Well, those clumps basically leave little spaces in between them, and those are good spaces for bugging. Jim McCormick talked about all the insects that are being grown essentially out of the Andreas wetlands. There's lots of insects here amongst those spaces in between these clumps of grass, too. Leaves room for birds to move around, collect those insects, and feed to build up protein, good fat stores, and so on. And real good structural diversity because you have a variety of plants. You have these tall grasses, you have shorter forbs, wildflowers. Okay, just an example, even though you can't see the leaves and the seeds, we have a good stand of Indian grass here. This one with the seed head is probably a gray coneflower, so there's a good mix of vegetation in here. One of the things to keep in mind about this stand as you're looking at it is you probably had 20 or 25 inches of snow back here in February. I know down in Columbus they had close to 30 inches. That 30 inches of snow was on the ground for almost 6 weeks. Okay? If this was the shorter cool season grasses, they would have all been laid down, totally covered by snow. You still have standing dead vegetation here that can provide some structure for birds, especially native species like quail that need to find some kind of cover to get away from predators and out of the elements. And so these little clumps, like what we have standing down here, is good refuge in some of those conditions. It's late in the season, but you also have some standing food stock remaining on these seed heads as you get out of fall and move into winter. So unlike the cool season grasses in some areas, all those seed heads on the cool season grasses would have been pushed over, buried under the snow where birds cannot get to them. Here you have standing grasses. These seed heads here probably provide a good bit of food for birds overwintering in habitats like this. So areas like this, even though this is very narrow in terms of the amount of habitat available, it's good corridor habitat. You now have 120 feet of grass that provides a corridor during the spring and summer for birds to travel. It's nesting and brood rearing cover, and it's also providing some cover and some food resources for the birds during the winter. So whether it's a resident bird or a bird coming down from the north to overwinter here in Ohio, this is providing some resource for a variety of bird species year-round.